Now available on Tata Sky channel number 526.
Hello and welcome to the Property News. You're watching Magic Bricks Now, India's first property channel. I'm Amita Balachandra. Let's take a look at the top headlines at this hour. Cheer coming in for Bengaluru citizens. The BBMP or Bruhat Bengaluru Mahanagara Palike allots nearly half of its budgetary allocation to fix the city's infrastructure woes. The civic body will also focus on solid waste management and revival of lakes. Environmental norms to get more strict. An amendment to the existing bill proposes fining violators minimum 5 crore rupee and a jail term of up to 7 years. BMC is in the dock yet again. Under the civic body's watch, developers use incentive FSI but do not give MADA the promise of homes. At stake are around 200 affordable homes in the heart of Mumbai. Also on the show, the final part of our special series looking beyond metros. Today we focus on Bhopal and Indore. Alright, straight up to our top story today. The BBMP or Bruhat Bengaluru Mahanagara Palike has allotted nearly half of its budget to fix the city's infrastructure woes. Big focus has also come in for solid waste management and revival of lakes. Now, these are issues that we have been constantly raising at Magic Bricks. Now, we've been lending voice to citizens' protests and seeking answers from civic officials. Remember, just last week, Karnataka's Consumer Affairs Minister Dinesh Gundu Rao promised a change within 3 months, and that seems to have begun with the budget. With an ambitious budget outlay of over 9,000 crore rupees, a major chunk of it has gone into the city's infrastructure. Now, the civic body plans to take up development of flyovers, roads and ITBT hubs, most affected areas like Whitefield and Pina industrial area. A major focus has also been outlaid for revival of lakes and maintenance of these lakes, which is a big problem in Bengaluru considering most of the lakes have become toxic. For example, there is Belandur Lake and Alsur Lake. The important thing, however, to note here is that the civic body plans to mop up most of its revenue through property taxes, which means you could end up paying more for your home starting the 1st of April 2016. Here's how it works. Currently, the city is divided into 6 tax zones, Zone A to Zone F. Residents of Zone A pay the highest property tax and residents of Zone F pay the lowest. Of course, with this hike, a lot of these areas will be reshuffled, which means areas like Outer Ring Road, Whitefield, Banerghatta Road, all of those areas in the periphery will bear the maximum cost. That's mostly because these areas which were up until now in Zone F paying the lowest amount of tax, considering the guidelines were made way back in 2008, they will end up paying higher taxes. But like I mentioned, of course, it's an ambitious target there with over 9,000 crore rupee. And on Magic Bricks Now, we will continue to bring you regular updates of how much of that is actually put into use. Moving on now, in a move that will be welcomed by the Green Lobby, the government is all set to hike the fine for violating environmental norms in the country. The fine could go up to 5 crore rupees with a 7-year imprisonment, and this is the minimum penalty for offenders. Now, this proposed amendment comes a couple of weeks after the NGT's face-off with the Art of Living Foundation. We understand that the centre will introduce the amendment bill in the second half of the budget session next month. To give us better perspective on just how this will impact projects across the country, we have Advocate Balendra Shekhar joining us live from New Delhi. Mr. Shekhar, thank you so much for joining us here on Magic Bricks Now. First of all, tell us, will the proposed bill give more teeth to NGT?
At this juncture, we have the kind of penal system that is 1 lakh for the whole illegality, and in addition 5,000 per day for causing perpetual damage. So this is what the penal provision at this juncture we have under section 15 of the Environment Protection Act. But by bringing this bill, this penal provision will go to the extent of 5 crores for causing a substantial damage, because in this bill they have segregated the damage in three segments. One is minor violation, second is non-substantial violation, and third is substantial violation. So if anybody commits any substantial violation, then the penal clause would be 5 crores minimum, and maximum can go to the extent of 15 crores or even more to that penal amount.
All right. Also tell us, will this move deter people from violating environmental norms in the future? Do you think the proposed penalty is harsh?
This section 15 which we have under EP Act, this act was brought in 1986, and right now we are sitting in 2016. So of course there was a very much obvious need to make that penal clause more viable and more realistic one. So I don't think that this amount is very much exorbitant or very much high, because at this time government has also ensured to keep a proper check, because it's not a case that everybody whosoever will violate will be asked to pay a penal clause of 5 crores.
All right. If the bill comes through, of course, what will be the impact on pending cases, especially the residential properties violating environmental norms?
5 crores will primarily deal with those cases where big industrial houses are involved. And all those industrial units, like all those units which are located at the back, along Ganga, or even you say that if an industry exists in the very heart of city and that is causing pollution, or that is excreting something because of which entire environment is being damaged. So this penal provision will deter those kind of people.
All right, Mr. Shekhar, thank you so much for joining us here on Magic Bricks. Now, let's also get in an environmentalist to give us more perspective on this matter. Joining us on the phone line is Gotham Keeton, a fellow at Observer Research Foundation, Mumbai. Thank you so much for joining us on Magic Bricks. Now, first of all, tell us, do you welcome this proposed steep increase in penalty?
Of course, I mean, there's no reason for environmentalists not to. In fact, many of them will be very happy. What it's done is it's really taken the seriousness into a new orbit. It's absolutely a no-nonsense intent on the part of the government, at least from the looks of it and from the percentile increment that's happened as far as the fines are concerned. So yeah, environmentalists across the board will welcome it.
All right. Also tell us, what kind of an impact will this have on people who violate environmental norms? Do you think the proposed penalty is harsh?
This penalty really gives agencies some sort of teeth to go after repeat defaulters. So it does appear that this is a reaction to people preferring to pay the fines and going about business as usual. Meaning to say that it's an indication maybe of the economy also progressing rapidly. A lot of demand-driven manufacturing that's happening, and people prefer that if it's a 1 lakh rupee target penalty, then we'll pay the penalty and continue to work. This kind of changes the whole thing, and it makes industry take notice. So yes, because it's in the part of the legal framework, of course it will bring some change on ground. Implementation is the key. If you're able to implement it on ground and penalize a couple of people very early on, then certainly it'll have a ripple effect.
All right. Like you mentioned, implementation is of course key, but also tell us what are the challenges there in implementing this move?
It does seem like a very large leap. Okay. And some small and medium scale industries which, are equally polluting compared to some larger industries may feel the burn. But in the first place, there should be no compromise on something like this. Every environmental asset that we have is very precious. It is very fragile today, whether it is a riverine ecosystem, whether it is a marine ecosystem, whether it is in the hills, whether it is in forests, whether it is breaking of forests or joining forest corridors, whether it is mining inside sensitive zones. Everything is a very precious resource because, let's not forget, it gets distributed between 120 crore people. And, a small error on somebody's part here and there and it is going on. We all know about it, whether it is sand mining in riverbeds, whether it is mining, whether it is quarrying, whether it is industries which pollute along riverbanks. It is rampant across this country, and yes, the law enforcement agencies need teeth desperately to combat it. So, the challenges are going to be plenty. They are going to be plenty, but the government has shown some intent, which is very important.
All right, Mr. Keeton, thank you so much for joining us here on Magic Bricks Now. Shifting focus to Mumbai now, Maximum City has lost out on nearly 200 affordable homes in the heart of the city. Now, this is because Public Housing Authority MHADA did not receive homes promised to it by developers under a redevelopment scheme. The BMC, which was responsible to ensure that MHADA gets these homes, is now in the dock due to an FIR filed by an activist. Disha Shah got us this report.
Close to 163 small homes comprising 60,000 square feet of land could have been built for you and me in Matunga area in Mumbai, but this could not take place because Public Housing Authority MHADA did not receive homes as promised by developers under 33(5) DC rules, where the rules clearly permits a developer to surrender 50% surplus land to MHADA under redevelopment scheme. Moreover, in the same locality, close to 150 families also has been given possession without an occupation certificate or OC, and buildings were developed without getting a no objection certificate from MHADA. And BMC, the Mumbai civic body which is responsible to ensure that MHADA gets these homes, is now in a dock because an FIR has been filed by an activist against 10 BMC officials, stating that BMC officials has not taken any action against these illegal buildings and 150 residents who have been staying without getting an OC. In the FIR copy, it also mentions that the rules are just on paper, and these properties are being misused by developers in conveyance with MHADA officials. When we contacted MHADA, the officials were unavailable for comment. More so ever, the FIR copy also says that this is not the case only in Matunga, but this is a case across Mumbai, where close to 33 developers has caused a loss of 6,000 crore rupees to MHADA. And till date, 30 similar cases have been filed from 2011 to date. And when we spoke to activist who has filed a case against 10 BMC civic officials, he also went on and said that he will also go and file a case against MHADA officials because the officials has also failed to take any action against developers who had promised them a surplus area of the land. So clearly, we at Magic Bricks Now, we will keep a close eye on at this case, and we will keep you updated as and when this case progresses. This is Disha Shah from Magic Bricks Now.
These properties have been misappropriated and misused by the developers in connivance with the MHADA officials. Across Mumbai, Matunga is one of the 5 projects of the 33 projects which I am following up. In fact, I have met Mr. Bhange, who is the CEO of MHADA, and he has informed me that they have taken appropriate steps to recover the property, but as per my information and the information in RTI, still 60% of the property is still to be recovered, and there are no proceedings initiated by MHADA to recover the surplus area. I have filed RTI applications to know the names of the officers who have willfully and deliberately disobeyed the directions of law to save the accused and cause wrongful loss to MHADA. And once I receive those information, I will be filing the case against the VP, Vice President, against the CEO and all the concerned officers who have willfully and deliberately neglected their official duty and caused wrongful loss to MHADA.
Now, Bengaluru's real estate major Brigade Enterprises has inaugurated its second mall, Orion East in Bengaluru. Brigade Enterprises CMD Jay Shankar spoke to Magic Bricks Now's Rahul Dayama on the revenue potential of the mall, plans for hospitality sector, and how demand scenario has fared this quarter. Let's listen in.
Orion East Mall is built on a land area of about 2.5 acres. And it has a total leasable area of about 270,000 square feet, and it has about 500 car parks. It is in the east part of Bangalore, which is on the Banaswadi Road, which caters to the area of Fraser Town, Coxtown, Cooktown, Richardstown, Kamanahalli, Kasturi Nagar and other important areas of Outer Ring Road. This area has always been underserved as far as quality shopping is concerned. From that angle, I am sure it will be a boon to the population of East Bangalore. So the overall investment of the project, including land, if you consider, it's about 200 crores plus. And we have totally, there will be 350 brands on offer in this mall.
In terms of the demand scenario that you're seeing, the last few quarters have been a little sluggish for players across the board. But this quarter, how are you seeing? Is there an uptick in the number of inquiries? What's the situation on
retail?
Residential.
Residential, I would say the Q4 January to March has been a bit soft. But as I said earlier in another interview, if people have launched projects during this period in the right budget category, I think they seem to have received a good demand. Otherwise, generally the market is a bit soft, and we expect after this budget, which is generally considered a progressive budget and meets the requirement of various segments of industry and agriculture, the things should improve into 2016-17. If the general economy improves, there is no reason to feel bad.
Moving on, if you're looking at buying a plot in and around Gurgaon, then you could be spoiled for options soon. The Haryana Urban Development Authority will announce 10 new sectors which will have residential plots up for grabs. Suesha Sawant has this report.
Huda is on its way to floating close to 8 to 10 new sectors. These will mainly come in areas like Sonipat, Fatehbad, Hisar, Kurukshetra, Bhiwadi, Rewari, Hasi, etc. And when I spoke to officials from Huda, they said that they have not set the reserve price yet. They are still holding meetings to set the reserve price. They're mostly targeting at 31st March, but they're not too sure of when, whether they will be able to hit that date. That might take a little longer. Most of the infrastructure development that will happen will be done by Huda itself. These plots will come up for residential use, and people like you and me can go and purchase these plots. However, the plots for commercial use will later be sold through auction. Mostly these plots, of course, will vary in sizes, but they could touch as much as 15,000 plots, which would be put up for sale very soon.
Let's move on to a Magic Bricks Now special series, Looking Beyond Metros. Post-Finance Minister's announcement of an additional tax exemption on home loans for first-time home buyers who buy homes that cost under 50 lakh rupee, we at Magic Bricks Now decided to get you a lowdown on locations that offer homes in the sub-50 lakh rupee budget in the Tier 2 and 3 cities. We've come to the end of the series, of course, and we will head towards the largest state of the country, Madhya Pradesh, where my colleague Suesha Sawant will round up the Indore and Bhopal market for you.
Bhopal is the capital of Madhya Pradesh and has huge retail businesses. The average per square foot rate in Bhopal is around 2,500 rupees per square foot. The city is mostly divided into 3 segments: old residences in the main city, planned development in newly developed areas, and upcoming development. Now, independent houses, which mostly comprise of duplex and bungalows, they comprise of almost 88% of the residential market. However, the new trend that is catching up is of those of triplexes, and that is seeing a massive absorption rate of more than 70% in the market. The prime locations in Bhopal, which are anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 rupees per square foot, include areas like Old City, Kolar. The affordable locations, which are between 800 to 1,200 rupees per square foot, include areas which are along Hoshangabad Road. The areas along Airport Road vary between 500 to 700 rupees per square foot. The main growth drivers in Bhopal include the proposed Bhopal Metro project and the fact that it's on its way to becoming a smart city. The city is vying to become a preferred destination for major companies owing to its central location and come in par with its commercial capital of Madhya Pradesh, which is Indore. Now, talking about Indore, it is the educational hub of MP and is also a growing IT hub. The average per square foot rate is around 2,000 rupees. The city is now mainly getting saturated when it comes to pricing because the land is mostly saturated in the main city, and that is why the growth for peripheral areas is picking up. The main city, the city center, ranges anywhere between 10,000 to 12,000 rupees per square foot. Whereas if you talk about areas like Ring Road, Bypass Road, Super Corridor, they range from anywhere between 800 to 2,500 rupees per square foot. And the main growth drivers in Indore include the metro project and the fact that Indore is on its way to becoming a smart city.
All right, to give us more perspective on both these markets, we have Ashwinta Raj Singh, who is the CEO of Residential Services at GLL. Thank you so much for joining us here on Magic Bricks Now. Ashwinta, first of all, as a first-time home buyer with a 50 lakh rupee budget, how would you review both these markets for me?
So Bhopal and Indore, both are going to be attractive markets. Both markets have been selected as part of the smart cities, and they are part of the 20 cities in India. I see a lot of potential in these markets in the coming times. There's a lot of investment that has been slated by the government for both these cities, and we feel that these cities will have a very strong investment potential from a longer term perspective. What is going to happen, Bhopal Municipal Corporation, they are focusing on a 350 acre development in Shivaji Nagar, and that is what is going to make them a part of a smart city. And this is what is going to be the most important place where we will see growth happening in Bhopal. In Indore, what is happening is that the CBD of Indore is already very saturated, and the prices are already high in Indore, and the CBD is quoting at around 10,000 to 12,000 rupees per square feet. So the outer periphery of Indore will see a lot of boom, and we will also see a lot of townships kind of coming up, because the customers have started having a fancy for moving into townships and moving into apartments rather than bungalows.
All right, also give us some perspective on the areas that we should be looking at in both these markets.
I think there are going to be a lot of new companies which are going to set up their operations both in Bhopal and Indore, because strategically it is center of India, and now both of them becoming smart cities, we will see a lot of action on the government spending, as I said earlier. So in a span of 4 to 5 years, I definitely see an investment return of 5 to 6%. And maybe after that it even goes up to 8 to 9%, but that will happen after 5 years.
All right. Also tell us what would be the risks in both these markets for an investor?
Investment returns will take time, and it is going to be a long-term perspective for them. So, expecting huge returns in a span of 2 to 3 years will be a little challenging. But from an end user perspective, I think these are great markets, and if you choose the right developers and the right kind of property development, I think it's going to help the clients in the longer run.
All right, Ashwinder, thank you so much for joining us here on Magic Bricks Now. And with that, we've completely run out of time on this show. But if you have any feedback or suggestions for us, write to us on the email IDs flashing on your screens. We're also on Twitter and Facebook. Feel free to tweet to us or post your query on our Facebook page. Also, check out our website, mbnow.in. You can also access all our shows on our YouTube channel. The IDs are on your screens, and we would love to hear from you. It's a wrap on this edition of the Property News. Thank you for watching.
You can watch live TV on our website, mbnow.in. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/magicbricksnow. And don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at Magic Bricks Now. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/magicbricksnow.